Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be having different units of tanks and flying units and infantry units. We're going to be going over all sorts of different terrain. Maybe there's some big mountains and then some woods and things. So today we're going to be trying to destroy each other in Flick Wars. This is a game that's on Kickstarter right now. It is for 2 to 6 players, takes about 20 minutes to play. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how the game works, and then I'll see you on the other side. In Flick Wars, you'll be choosing one of these 6 different factions to play throughout the game. Now every faction has its own deck of cards, which has different units on it with different abilities, and on the left there you see all the different units that this faction comes with. Now there is a battle mat that you'll be playing on during the game, but this is not the one you'll get with this Kickstarter. In fact, the mat you get will look like this on the print, and of course all the other components and artwork are subject to change as well, since this is a Kickstarter preview. Now over the course of the game and at the beginning, you're going to be spending a certain amount of currency in order to get your different units out there. At the beginning you'll get 2 units and you'll spend the currency to be able to do that. And over the course of the game you'll be measuring range and how far you are from things. At the beginning you'll be placing things at a certain range from your base. Now over the course of the game you'll be flicking your units into the opponent's units. And you'll win the game by making sure that the opponent has no units left in the battlefield. Now when setting up the battlefield, you'll get to place some items that are possibly in the game, and you can use any items as well. You can place phones or anything that's around the house there. Now below here you can actually put things underneath the battlefield, and here you see it make some terrain. This is just a huge oval disc that is making it look like a big hill. Now on your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can take a command turn or an action turn. When taking a command turn, you get to do 2 command actions. Your options are to move, and by doing that you would basically flick the unit like that and move it. And you get 2 of these, and you can do the same thing twice. So I could move that unit again, or I can move this one, for example, or any of mine that are on the board. Now, it's important to note that when you do this, you actually disregard any of the movement or abilities that are on the card itself, because some of these cards, or all of them, are going to have specifics that we'll get into later, but you ignore those as you're doing these basic command actions moving around the board. The other command action is deploying a unit. Essentially, you're going to place it within 2 range of your base, and you're going to pay the cost in your currency. So you have to have the money, and you have to have the unit available off the board in order to do that. In this case, this one costs 4, but there's different amounts. So by default, you get 2 command turns on your turn, but for every piece of currency that you do use, you can continue and do another command unit. So you can spend as much as you want and move around as much or deploy as many units as you can by spending 1 every time you do so. Now instead of doing a command turn, you can do an action turn. And when doing so, you're going to activate one of the units that are on the board. Right now I have this one and this one, but later on if you added these ones, you could do this. And this tells you by default how many flicks you're going to get. So when you do the flicks, you get to decide whether you're doing a move flick or an attack flick. And as you're activated, again, we look here, we get 1 flick by default. Now if we're doing a move flick, it acts just like the command turn where you're just flicking to move it. But you have to only use this amount. You don't just use 1 like the command unit. So if we're activating this, I get 1, and you look at some of the abilities. This blitz says I get +1 flick if this unit's activated more than 3 range away from all enemy units. So we look here, and let's say that we put this all the way around and no enemies are within 3. Well, I'm going to get +1 flick. So in this case, I'm actually going to get 2 move flicks with this Ripper. Look at this one. This says +1 flick if you hit an enemy unit with your first flick. So we get 1 because we activated it, and if we hit an enemy, we get another 1. So that would be a move flick. You also have to decide before you move whether it's going to be a move or an attack, and you have to say so. Now if the board looked like this, I could not attack here because this unit needs to be within a range of 1 of an enemy unit to be able to attack, and there is not. But even if he's crossing the line of 1, this is considered 1 away, and I would be able to attack, and I would do that, and if I hit it, then this essentially becomes debris, and it is flipped over. And after you've taken your command or action turn, it'll be the next player's turn, and you continue doing this until there's only 1 player left that has active units on the battlefield, and that player is the winner. Now once you're familiar with the game, you can add in all the cards and not use just the ones that say basic. And what you do is you take all the cards of the matching units from your faction, place them on top of each other. You'll get to pick which ones you're using at first, but once a unit or all the units of a certain type are no longer on the board, they're debris, you can, on your turn, on a command turn, instead of just taking a move flick or buying and deploying a unit, you could actually change it and switch it out with another card. And here's just shows some of the other factions and some of the abilities. By the way, there's 3 different types of cards. You have infantry, you have air, and then we'll show you tanks in a little bit. But look at these ones. Like this one, for example. You have +2 flicks if this unit starts its activation within 2 range of a friendly unit or base. Or after an attack, this unit may immediately make a free second attack flick. Now this one has like no abilities, but this player gets 3 flicks during activation. And this one, a +1 flick if this unit does not hit an enemy unit during its first flick during activating. Or first strike versus tanks. Tanks is the other type of unit we'll show you just in a minute. But during activation, you may take a single free attack flick targeting a tank unit. And this one is a tank, so this is one that other ability could have been used on. Now here, this one has a hit run. After an attack, this unit may immediately make a free move flick. Pretty cool. Look at this one. It costs 16. But you get all these special abilities, 3 of them. After an attack, this unit may make an immediately free second attack flick. Or it has shields. You start 1 shield on the card, like that. And when the unit would normally be killed, remove the shield to prevent death. Add 1 shield when killed. And we have this one over here, which is, similar to the other one. It is a tank, and lone wolf, +1 flick if you activate more than 2 range away from friendly units. And as you can see, if you're playing with more than 2 players, up to 6, you'll have different factions lined up around different parts of the battlefield. And you can do it with team play. Here's examples of 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3. This is showing you the order that they will essentially go in from person to person. You can team up with any faction, and if your team is the last one with living units on the battlefield, you'll win the team game. And then you can do a free-for-all with multiple players. Here's 3, 4, 5, or 6 players, and it shows you who essentially you're trying to defeat. So if this player defeats this player and has no more units on the battlefield, this player will win immediately. Where the blue player is trying to kill this one, so they're trying to watch out for this one and kill for this one. And as you can see with more players, there's lots of crosstalk going on. All right, so as you can tell, it's a fairly straightforward dexterity game that has some different factions to give each of the people different flavors who they want to play with. Maybe it's not just your favorite color you want to play with. Maybe it's the guy that has the crazy tank that you like. It's got to be one of those ones where you set up these big mats and you can play over a wide range of players. You can play with the 2-player just head-to-head, or you can play with multiple teams and you can do free-for-alls or team versus teams. It's a pretty simple mechanism, but definitely it's the extra special abilities and the cards that allow you to do the special things in the game. So if you like those dexterity style games, you want something that's quick and easy to learn, easy to teach, but has that flicking abilities that's fun, and being able to set up the terrain underneath and make the different hills and such, and give it that feel that it's a bigger game than it is, even though it's really easy to set up and easy to play. And if you're interested in this, you can go right to the description of this video. In there will be a link to the Kickstarter project where you can go learn even more, see all the final artwork and components, see the prices of the different pledge levels they have, and I'm sure they'd love your support.